classifying matter lab, we're going to be determining the states of matter of several different substances. Some of these substances are compounds, some are elements, and some of them are mixtures. And so first we'll take a look at some solids. So of the solids that we have to choose from, we have sulfur. And sulfur is a nice, pretty yellow compound. And so when we classify a solid, we ask ourselves, does this substance have its own shape and does it have its own volume? And if we can answer yes to both of those questions, then the substance is a solid. So in addition to sulfur, we have a sample of iron metal. We have a mixture of sodium chloride and sulfur. And then we have a vial of sodium chloride by itself, sodium chloride having the formula NaCl. And then finally we have a vial of sucrose. Sucrose is a type of sugar. And to be more specific, the type of sugar it is called a disaccharide, meaning that it's composed of two saccharides. And that particular saccharide or that particular sugar is glucose. So sucrose is basically two molecules of glucose chemically bonded together. So those are 5 solids. Choose 3 of them and record those on your data table under data set 1. Next, we've got 3 liquids and 3 gases in separate vials. Our 3 liquids include water, and the formula H2O is shown there. We also have a vial of salt water, which is a mixture or a solution. And when we talk about mixtures, mixtures are types of matter that consist of 2 or more elements or 2 or more compounds, or a mixture of elements and compounds that are physically mixed together. And so what makes a mixture different from a compound is that with a mixture, you can use physical methods to separate the different components of the mixture from each other. Whereas with a compound, you can't separate the atoms from each other by physical methods. You have to use chemical reaction methods to separate out the different atoms that make up a compound. So for instance, our salt water, we could use the physical methods of boiling the salt water. That will cause all the water to evaporate, and what will be left behind in our container is just the salt. So that's a physical method, boiling, that we could use to separate the salt from the water in this mixture. And finally, our last liquid is a sample of ethanol. Ethanol is a type of alcohol. It has the formula C2H5O8, meaning that it's a type of hydrocarbon type compound that has 2 carbons. Finally, our 3 gases. We have carbon dioxide, CO2, which is a greenhouse gas, meaning that it's very effective in trapping infrared radiation from the sun. And that infrared radiation is in the form of heat. And so that's why greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide contribute to climate change, because they trap IR heat in the Earth's atmosphere. And so if we have an excess amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, we're then trapping an excess amount of heat, more than we would normally trap if we weren't doing things like burning fossil fuels. The next gas is oxygen, O2, which of course we know that we need oxygen to survive. Oxygen is a component in air, and oxygen has the formula O2, which is just 2 atoms of oxygen that are chemically bonded together. And then finally we have air, which is a mixture of nitrogen gas, oxygen gas, carbon dioxide gas, and then there's also other trace gases that are in air, such as argon, water vapor, and so on and so forth. And depending on where you live, you'll have more or less water vapor in the air where you live. Where we live, of course, we're in the southeastern part of the United States, so this time of the year we have more water vapor in the air than we will have in the winter months. And of course, at any given time, we'll probably have more water vapor in the air in the southeast than they have in a state like Colorado, for example, which has a higher elevation above sea level. And so their air is more arid or dry than the humid air we experience in the south. So those are our solids, liquids, and gases for data set 1. Now you'll take time to fill out and complete your critical thinking questions, numbers 1 through 3.